Welcome back to the Radical Christ series. It's great to be back with you. And in case you're wondering about the new look, I want to introduce to you a parallel stream that's going to be running as a supplement to the Radical Christ teachings. And it's to address a concern that I've had, that it's very easy to become completely in our heads and theoretical about this whole notion of the Radical Christ. And so we've been talking about finding a way to integrate and to take back what humankind in our consciousness over millennia has projected outwards. We couldn't deal with the reality of divinity in us, our own consciousness, and so we projected it outwards into nature, into the gods, which were just humans written large, up into the sky God. And the radical nature of Jesus is that Jesus incarnates and comes and says to us, the kingdom of God is within you. So we're going to be carrying on exploring the Radical Christ, the top left image that you see, the red X, the Jesus who's been blowing our minds for thousands of years. We're going to carry on with that exploration. But what I want to do is offer practices, contemplative practices that we can apply to help us to integrate the top left information through integration to transformation. You see, part of the challenge that has happened in my own journey is that if you take Rad X at the top there, the Radical Christ, and by the way, if those of you who are sensitive about the X, the X is the Chai, so XST is just an abbreviation for Christos, the Radical Christ. We all grew up, certainly from a Eurocentric point of view, we grew up with this Jesus on the right, the classical Jesus, gentle Jesus, meek and mild, Jesus the milquetoast, Jesus the doormat, Jesus who certainly never does anything violent, and who is actually quite anemic. And in between the two, there is this other image of Christ, the suffering Christ, dare I say, a less Eurocentric one, a more African Christ. And it's this Christ that is within me. It's this Christ who still suffers. It's my own suffering that becomes a pheromone, like a bee is drawn to a flower. So when I am suffering, the Radical Christ comes to me and offers out of the depths and the richness of that archetype, of all that symbolism, all that iconography, that central image is the Christ that I invite us to connect with and to discover that Christ is already within us. So that is what I'm wanting to introduce through this integration stream running alongside. This will be the practicals for the talks. So we're going to jump right into the first one today, where we look at I am and who am I, as we seek to move from information through integration to discover transformation. Look forward to getting back to you. So for the first practice, I want to take you with me to India, to a little town in Tamil Nadu called Tiruvanamallai. I had never heard of it when I arrived in India and ended up there completely in a happy accident, and discovered the teachings of a man called Ramana Maharshi. The photograph at the bottom left is taken one morning by myself in 2009 on Arjunachala, the sacred mountain where Ramana Maharshi lived, and where an ashram was formed. Those are devotees, and they would be practicing Ramana's practice called self-inquiry. So it comes out of Hinduism, it comes out of Hindu Advaita, and but it loops back very interestingly into our own Hebrew Christian tradition. I'll say more about that later. But I want to introduce you simply to this process of self-inquiry. And this is not pure Ramana. Obviously, it's a bare bones version of it, but it is really a simple practice. The practice is to ask yourself, as I'm sure we have all been asking ourselves during this lockdown, and particularly those of us who've been locked down alone, living alone, particularly those who have lost incomes, those who have lost careers, professions, jobs. I'm thinking about performers. I'm thinking about people who have lost their businesses, people who have been prohibited from being who they thought they were. The question has come up again and again: who am I? Who am I now? And of course, when we introduce ourselves to other people, they say, "So, what do you do?" And that, of course, is the fault of René Descartes, who was a French philosopher who set European Western civilization on the track of becoming human doings and not human beings. So it was Descartes who said, "I think, therefore I am." So we've got to think our way into everything. We've got to come up with categories and labels and judgments, and that's all well and good when you exploring science and technology, and we really have been rewarded for it. But the shadow of that is that we have lost what it is just to be. And so the self-inquiry is a simple method of repeating the question to yourself: who am I? Who am I? And who am I? Notice how immediately your mind wants to answer the question. Who am I? I'm Peter. I'm a therapist. I'm a we all want to fill these roles, and so we'll list all the roles. It's said the second question a man asks another man when they meet is, "What do you do?" So we'll categorize all these roles. I am this, I am that, I am that, and then we might move on to relationships. I am married, or I am divorced, or I am single, or I am widowed. That becomes an identity. Then we can move into gender, we can move into race, we can move into all these labels and categories. I am this, I am that, I am this, I am that. But please notice that whatever comes after the I am, whatever you put there as the next thing, is going to change. Even down to I am healthy, I am no longer healthy. Or I am stable, I am no longer stable. Or vice versa. I am depressed, I am no longer depressed. So the I am question brings us back to what Ramana would call the awareness. The awareness that there is a witness witnessing me trying to be all those roles, all those identities, all those things. One step back from that is this silent witness that simply watches, the awareness, watching the I am, and it is the I am that is watching. One of the Indian saints, a beautiful woman called Anandamayi Ma, wrote this, and it puts it very beautifully. She says, "This body has lived with father, mother, husband, and all. This body has served the husband, so you may call this body wife. It has prepared dishes for all, so you may call it cook. It has done all sorts of scrubbing and menial work, so you may call it a servant. But if you look at the thing from another standpoint, you will realize that this body has served God. For when I served my father, my mother, my husband, and others, I simply considered them as different manifestations of the Almighty, and served them as such. When I sat down and prepared food, I did so as if it were a ritual, for the food cooked was, after all, meant for God. Whatever I did in the spirit of the divine service. Hence I was not quite worldly, though always engaged in household affairs. I had but one ideal, to serve all as God and to do everything for the sake of God. End quote. So who are you? Who am I? Who am I when everything is stripped away, when everything is torn away, when everything fades away, when everything I love I lose? Who am I? What remains? What remains? Who am I? So this simple questioning, and you can do it while you're driving, you can do it whenever you think about it, whenever you become aware of it, when you wake up, when you go to bed. Who am I? Who is it who is experiencing this? And who witnesses what is happening? And eventually, as it all breaks down and it all falls away, we are able to be united with the reality, the non-dual reality that everything is just one. There is just life. The great I am. And here's the tie back that I promised. Moses has had his life shattered. Moses is living in the back of the desert, not just in the desert, in the back of the desert. Moses is looking after his father-in-law's sheep. He hasn't even got his own, because Moses has messed up his life. He is a murderer and he's on the run, and he ran away from Egypt, where he killed 2 of the Egyptian slave controllers. And on the run in the back of the desert, hiding away, he has an encounter, a divine encounter, so holy that he has to take off his shoes. And in this burning bush, whatever that was, he encounters a message that says, you have to go back. You have to go back and integrate. You have to go and make whole all this shadow darkness of your life. Go back, Moses. And while you're there, set the Chapiru, the Hebrews, the slaves, set them free as you set yourself free. And here's the kicker. Moses, as he's about to go, says, by the way, they're going to ask me who sent me. What is your name? And the most holy name of God is revealed to Moses. A name so holy that in the Jewish religion it may not be uttered. It is so holy. And you know the answer. God says to Moses, tell them that I am. I am. So when we're completely stripped, when we're completely naked, when everything has fallen away, all our constructs of mind and our images of ego and who I am and the glittering images, when it's all gone, what remains is the imago Dei, the image of God, the imprint, the reality that I am God, the consciousness within me is the divinity of life. There is only consciousness, there is only awareness, there is only the witness. I am, you are, we are, Ubuntu in Africa. There is only one thing, and we're all participating in this great, great mystery. So I hope you find this a useful, simple practice, asking again and again, who am I? Who am I? Who am I? Happy exploring. Thank you for your attention.